Let's talk about meta midfielders. For the sake of this video, the meta midfielders are just referring to CDM, CM, and CAM, right? Wingers are in a whole separate thing, they're more attacking. But for the sake of this video, we're talking about those three positions. Your CDMs, your CMs, and your CAMs. There's so many different formations, so you're going to maybe have two CMs and a CAM, two CDMs and a CM, just three regular CMs that you might have different instructions on. You might have them all just defensive, right? You might have one defensive, two more attacking. It really depends on how you set it up. So the way I'm going to go over this is I'm going to talk to you about the most important skill sets, right, for a CDM slash CM, and then the most important skill set boosts in stats for a CM slash CAM, right? Because your box to box, typically you'd want them good at both. For me, I like having all three of my central midfielders more defensively sound, with one having just decent attacking attributes is fine, but for the most part, my one more attacking central midfielder, I simply want him as an outlet. I'll give you an example. I switched from the 4-3-3 attacking that had two CMs and a CAM to the 4-3-3 holding that had two CDMs and the CM because I just wanted, I wanted and I found that the central midfielders are a lot more help defensively, especially because of this long switch, L1 triangle long switch. A lot of times you skip over your midfielders as far as the passing sequences go. So, and then you're into the attack and looking for one of the several meta ways to score goals, which doesn't really include dropping to your midfielder. But there are times where you do want your at least one midfielder as an outlet. However, that doesn't mean that passing's that important when it comes to what the meta of this game is. So, if you have CDM and you're looking for, whether it's one or two, you're looking for the best players, I would prioritize both pace and defense and then look at fitness as well. And then last but not least, look at dribbling. In particular, within dribbling, you want an agile center defensive midfielder as much as you possibly can. Typically, they're not that agile, but if you can get an agile center defensive mid with at least decent dribbling, the reason that's important is because, the less stiff your central midfielder is, the more likely they can keep with the strikers on are the opposition on the dribbling aspect, right? As far as the dribbling goes itself, the better the dribbling on your central mid, CDM, whatever it is, the more likely they can dribble out of, sticky situations or at least dribble into an area where they have an open passing lane. The more stiff they are, the easier it is for your opponent to pressure them and get the ball off of them and then start going at your goal, right? Whether it's a counterattack or further up the field and they prevent you from furthering your attack, whatever it is, a good agile and good dribbling center mid can come in handy. But again, the most important aspects for me in both CDM as well as my other two CMs is pace combined with defense. The fitness area, obviously better jumping helps you win headers. Better strength can help you knock the attackers off the ball, and win more 50-50 balls, as well as air balls too. And then stamina. You want your central midfielders to be able to last without getting tired. Okay? So as wild as it sounds, passing would be the least important in a central midfielder. Now, that doesn't really correlate to real life, right? You want very good passers typically in the center of the midfield. Now, maybe you play a little bit differently, right? And hopefully once this patch comes, maybe passing for center mids will become a little more important. But especially for the meta right now and for the type of just simple passes, more transitional passes I use my center midfielders for, it's not worth really looking into high passing stats for your, whether it's a CDM and two box to box or a CDM, a CM, and then even a CAM. Okay, you could argue maybe for a CAM you would want to look at better passing, but even for probably how you play, you'd probably want your CAM to actually have better shooting attributes. Okay, with that regard, shooting. If you are looking further up the field or you want your center midfielder to be able to bang in long shots, I hate to break it to you, but I had Valverde, who is one of the best, if not the best, at long shots. He had both ultra effect, long shot boost, and high stats and long shots. But for whatever reason, they're not OP like finesse shots. You can have an absolute rocket from a good area, and it's less likely to go in than a finesse shot, for instance. So again, you see how I have my setup. Chouameni would be like my CDM. Camavinga would be my CM slash CDM, depending on how I'm playing, what formation and whatnot. But Camavinga is a perfect example of what you'd want skill set boost wise. He has both boosts in tackling and interceptions. The reason why that's so important is, like I said before, you want your center midfielders to be able to break up attacks. So a player like Camavinga having these boosts, he's more likely to intercept passes, right? And he's more likely to get in and win tackles. You combine that with good defensive positioning, and he's among the best you can get in that CM CDM role. Not to mention, both Camavinga and Chouameni have position changes, which can come in handy, which allows him to play what Camavinga has ultra effect on position change, so he can literally play all 10 field positions. Chouameni, on the other hand, he has center back, CD and CDM and CM, which is huge too, right? Because it lets you play different formations and have players in the right areas. So definitely think about that as far as the positioning for your center mids. Just being able to have them fit in different ways you might want to play, right? But for the most part, I want all three to have defensive boost and high defensive stats. Then I'm looking for a little bit of the dribbling, like I said, agility, decent dribbling to get out of pressure and whatnot. And then some of the fitness area with speed being important as well, so your center mids can get up and get back, right? The importance on getting up the field more is obvious to join the attack, no matter if you have one or two center mids joining or maybe all three. Defensively, it's important to have good pace speeds. You want your center mids to be able to track down the attacking opposition, right? As well as be able to quickly provide back pressure too, and not allow your opponent to have time to dribble or find passing options or shooting options. So that's where speed really comes in. You see there, I'm kind of pointing out two very good cams in Odegaard and Palmer. I did previously use a cam. I haven't as much lately, right? But what I would look at, even though they have great passing, right? And maybe for you, passing is more important, particularly for a cam. I could see that. But if I was still playing a cam, the biggest thing I would look at is once again pace, because for me, my cam was more like a second striker. So there were times where my cam would make, the runs past my striker, and I want them to be able to have pace so defenders can't catch up to them. Okay? And then the long curling shots. You would want to find a cam that can get in those areas similar to the wingers in this game and really utilize the OP long shots or curling shots, right? Finesse shots, whatever you want to call them. Just because they don't have like the curling shot boost as a cam, it doesn't mean they aren't good. You would kind of have to do your research, see if you're playing against certain cams that are great at those curling shots. Because, for example, Mbappe, he has zero boost when it comes to the precision shot, finesse shot, whatever, and he is absolutely OP at them. No different than like a Salah or a Son or somebody like that. Palmer, I just use him as an example because everyone knows in EAFC he has great finesse shots. I have no idea if it's the same for him here. I know cheap beast that I had previously would be Lee Kang in the cam position. He had beautiful finesse shots, right? And he was a great dribbler, so he was very agile and can kind of look for holes to exploit in the defense, especially if they had your striker marked tight. You could lay it back to him and Cam, and he could set himself up for a good finesse shot or even dribble through the holes and finish within the box. So going through other cheap beasts here, because even though I have Camavinga and Chouameni, they're very high rated now. When I got them, they weren't as high rated. I actually picked up Camavinga before like the price change after early access. And Chouameni, honestly, I wouldn't necessarily say cheap beast, although he started pretty cheap. Definitely, I would say a reasonable type central midfielder. Joe Ellington, too. Very affordable, whether you want to call him cheap beast or not, depending on your funds. He's a very good option. But you look at guys like Laboca, right? Very good CDM. Loftus-Cheek would be a very good example of a box-to-box. Honestly, save your funds. I said this in previous videos. Save your main funds for your attacking players, both your strikers and your wingers. Maybe your cams, depending on how you play as well. But as far as for your CDMs and CMs, you can scroll through and look for, the most important skill set boosts and even more important stats, pace, defense, fitness, dribbling, heading, right? And find very good, cheap options that, remember, you can build up along the way. So, with that being said, good luck on finding the best central midfielders for your team, and we will see you in the next one.